you let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Well, all right, everybody. Hello. And I caught that one early. I said, why does the volume look so low? Then I realized I was doing some video editing here today, and that usually automatically screws up the output settings over here at Studio B. And again, you also might have noticed now, Frank is who the hell is that? Frank is at Studio B. Hold on. I see a little squiggle behind me. I got to see what the heck this is all about, because she knows when we're home, and it's been a long time. Aurora, how you doing?
Good.
You doing all right?
Mm-hmm.
How you feeling?
Good.
You want to introduce our guest tonight?
Who is that?
Say, our guest tonight is
Jay the nutritionist.
Jay the nutritionist. Here, Jay, you there?
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Let's go side by side. Jay is live from his icy prison in New York City. He has not been. He needs to be like dug out because he was buried by the city, and I'm sure the plows and all that other stuff. But
the plows will run over his car.
Yeah, well, the plow's not letting him out. So, Jay, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's actually pretty comfortable in here, nice and toasty.
Yeah, it is. Aurora, that front tooth is hanging on by a thread, man. She wanted to show you her tooth.
Oh, look at that.
That's the big tooth behind it, the shark tooth that came up. But the baby one in front is like ready to pop out now. She wants it out.
How do you feel?
Bad.
You want it out, Aurora?
I want it out right now.
She's just like, Frank, she's like, Dad, can you pull it out? I said, it's not ready yet.
Tie it to a string, put it on the doorknob.
I've been telling her about the tying it to a string, but I would just yank it. I wouldn't put it on the doorknob. I said, go bite into an apple or something like that. Bite into a rack of lamb. Anyway.
I'm not a goat, Dad.
I'm not a goat. Well, anyhow, Aurora, is there anything you'd like to say to everybody at home?
I have this.
What is this?
Book.
It's a book on love?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
First book for little ones. Love. Oh, okay. Well, we should read one of these one day on the air. How about that?
But, well, there's no really thing that you could read. There's no words, just pictures.
So you can make up your own words along the way?
Birds and dinosaurs and pigs.
What about space aliens?
No, but there is cows, tigers, and dogs. Okay.
Well, then one day you and me, we're going to go to the studio. We'll do our own little daddy-daughter broadcast again. Tomorrow. Well, we'll see. You have to go do your schooling and all that other stuff, and then maybe afterwards, we'll see. Okay. All right, go be
Dad,
good. Say goodnight to everybody.
Take my tooth out.
Yeah, I'll take your tooth out tomorrow. All right, say goodnight. Bye.
Good night.
There you go. Well, Jay. That one. What do you think about that, Jay?
I love it.
We're home.
I remember those days with the teeth.
Oh, man. I do too. I remember I was doing a play. I remember one of the last teeth I remember losing. I was doing a play my father was directing. and I felt this thing was about, it was like one of my like molars. I felt this thing, it was like going side to side and stuff. Like you can actually feel the suction cup.
Oh yeah.
You know, that whole thing. Oh God, that thing is
gross.
Anyway, when you go in and you grab onto it, you say, this is it. And you, and out it goes.
You try to avoid it for a while and you're thinking like, no, it's not happening. And then you realize it's happening and you just have to kind of, you gotta roll with it until it's time. And then you just want it out.
Yeah. No,
Every bite of food is painful.
You do. I think that's coming soon, but I'm happy we're doing this. And I think that you would agree. Yeah, we're dealing with. First of all, I wasn't going to go to the studio to be the only one in that freezing place alone. If you were going to stay home, I'm going to go remote as well. But other than that, you know, when your dream comes true and you have your own little, you know, retreat and life set up in the woods of New Hampshire or wherever you set up shop in restorative New England, I mean, we're going to have to do this from time to time anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, I'm telling you, it's so funny. Like the lengths that I went to be here or to be at the studio. So like Sunday was the main part of the storm for New York, and I felt so good. I mean, on Sunday the snow was actually beautiful because it was super cold, so the snow was very dry.
Yeah,
I was out at like 11 p.m. shoveling. I cleared a path to both doors, driver's side and passenger side of my Jeep. I fired it up. It was actually beautiful outside in the city because it was so quiet. No one else was outside. I was shoveling. Everything was wonderful. I'm like, oh, I got this. The show's Tuesday. We're going to have no problems at all. So I go to bed all happy and proud of myself because I was out there shoveling. And then Monday I work and I get outside at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon just to check on my Jeep. And the plows had showed up and they just... I mean, I'm on a narrow city street, right? I never longed for a driveway so badly because when the plows come by, they just put like a 3 to 4 foot wall of ice and snow up against the car and couldn't even get to my door handles anymore. And remember, I had a path right clear to them. So all day Monday, I had to try to chip out. I couldn't even get the car started because I couldn't get into the car. And then today I actually got some help and I was able to get into the car, but I couldn't get it out of the wall of ice in time. So hopefully by tomorrow, but it was I was thinking of Han Solo in Carbonite. That's what I kept thinking about my poor Jeep. I was like, man, this thing is ready for transport because it's like a brick.
It's bad. I mean, you know, it's a lot of snow, so you can't just be like, well, you know, the DPW isn't worth a shit. They're not. Right. You got to give them some time when it's this much, but it's still pretty. The side streets are messy over here, and there are cars that are completely entombed. But yeah, no, I was not going to allow that to happen. I wasn't going to allow it to happen over here. That's for sure. Okay. So, I mean, we got a bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah, let's roll.
We do. And we have some fun stuff to do as well. I'm just making sure that my levels are all right. Cause I see myself hitting the red over here. First things first, did you see this? I saw the High Wire, Del Bigtree's account, put out an arsenic in kids candy thread today that there were popular brands loaded with toxic levels. No better time for your family to maha. Shocking new tests from Healthy Florida First expose arsenic, a known carcinogen, in everyday Halloween and everyday candy treats. Safe yearly limits for children are tiny. We're talking about 4 to 18 pieces per year for some favorites before exceeding safe thresholds. The worst offenders: Jolly Rancher Sour Apple. That's 540 ppb. And that's, what is that, parts per billion?
ppb, yeah, parts per billion.
Tootsie Fruit Chew Lime, 570 ppb. Nerds Grape is 380. Skittles Original is 370. Sour Patch Kids, 470. I mean, some of these things are
this is microplastics.
I don't know. This is this is for arsenic exposure.
Arsenic. Okay.
Beyond limits that are considered safe can increase the risk of, you know. So that's Healthy Florida First. Nerds. Wow. You know, I never really liked Nerds. I feel like Sour Patch Kids suck. There's some great sour candy out there, but Sour Patch Kids, the sour experience was just less than 20 seconds long.
Oh, so, definitely.
So the hell with that. What else we got here? Snickers. Oh, Snickers is up there, $3.50.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Skittles, Sour Patch, Dots. Who the hell eats Dots?
Nobody.
Nobody. For you. I do. No, you don't. Stop it. Stop it. Smart Sweets. I remember those.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
You know, it's wild, Frank. I mean, you know, we talk about this all the time. Like, when are we gonna start to pay attention to the fact that the things that we call food, or we call food type things on your show, I call them that a lot. It's just it's so strange to me, and the pushback that I'm sure this will get pushback. I was reading an article, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit later on when it's a little bit more appropriate, but there's an online publication meant for healthcare professionals called MedPage Today, and they always, I mean, they're not they don't publish papers. They have a severe political slant, and they're more just like opinion, but they supposedly are a scientific outlet. I don't really know what they are. All I know is that they wrote an article recently, and the title was, and I want you to see if you can figure out where they're going with this. I was wrong about RFK. Now, if that's coming from like the left perspective, and I were to tell you, I was wrong about RFK, you know, where would you think maybe the next line of intellect would travel?
I don't even know. Just give it to me.
I thought even a blind squirrel could find a nut once in a while, but no, turns out I was wrong. RFK is wrong about everything. That's what it was. That's what it was.
So it wasn't even like, hey, you know, I found some overlap with the guy. They were wrong about him having the capability of being right about anything.
Yes.
It's so easy.
Oh God. And so, you know, and we'll get into the couple things that I found, because I found some really interesting things that are very, very current, timely. But even in supposed scientific outlets, it just goes to show you that these doctors, they all have their bias, and you just have to be careful. So, you know, it may seem harmless when you're talking about, oh, you know, some of these candies have a little, and what you'll hear from people is, because this has been found in chocolate before and things like that. I'm sure Justin could speak on this. But when kids are having this like at lunch every day, that's when it does become a problem, because you'll always hear the dose makes the poison. And I would say, well, to some kids, those candies are in pretty high doses. And so when you start talking about behavioral challenges or, you know, unexplained autoimmune conditions, we look at things like heavy metals in the blood. And, you know, if they're measured in the blood, Frank, then they're a real problem, because usually things like heavy metals, they'll get stored in adipose tissue because the body needs to protect itself. So you're not going to usually have heavy metals floating around in the bloodstream. So when you do, that means that either the exposure was very recent, or you've been exposed so much that even the fat cells cannot store any more of this stuff, and you've got a real problem. So, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, get some of those blood levels of those things checked as like a first line defense, especially if you've got a kid who's suffering from behavioral challenges or things like that. Just rule out a lot of things before you start putting them on high doses of any kind of ADHD medication or something like that, because you never know where this stuff is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not just sugar.
Yeah. Hey, you know, let me ask you about Reese's peanut butter cups. If you had to eat a Reese's peanut butter, a classic Reese's peanut butter cup, a Reese's peanut butter tree, or a Reese's peanut butter Easter egg, which one would you take?
I got to go with the cup.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean, like they're like small. They're sort of like, I don't know, single serve, like I don't know. I just like I mean, they're delicious, and who doesn't like peanut butter and chocolate? So I think I would go with
there's so much more peanut butter with the egg, though. I think the eggs are supreme. I think Lauren would agree with me. Eggs, then trees, then the cup. There's just too much of a chocolate crust with the cup. I want more peanut butter.
I see. So you're talking about the peanut butter to chocolate ratio is what the differentiator is for you.
I think it's a better ratio there. It makes the texture, it makes the entire physical experience of eating the damn thing different.
You know, the problem is we can't even do a blind taste test, because as soon as you put them in your mouth, you know exactly which one you have. I mean, the peanut butter cup's got the little ridges, so you'd never be able to do like a blind taste test.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought process, Frank. I never really considered that before.
No doubt. I think it comes down. Some people are saying the egg. I see one person, Dandy from YouTube, said the egg. I'll be looking out for you guys. I feel like the egg has more peanut butter, says Shane B. Indeed, it does.
Well, how about this?
Yes.
What if, and I've done this before, what if you make your own and then you can add more peanut butter? And so now you can control the peanut butter to chocolate ratio, huh?
Oh, yes. You know what? Lauren sent this to me right before the show started. She said, Frank, I just sent you something for Jay. And I said, let me take a look at this. And before we get into, because I want your opinions on what's going on around what you feel should be done about the kinds of demonstrations against immigration, law enforcement, and things like that. Not necessarily people's protest whatever the hell you want, but the kind of suicidal gambits that people are going on to be able to defeat. It's insane. So I want to talk to you about that. But this first, because we're already on the topic. Here we go. Listen to this. This is from Nettie's Nutrition, Harvard and Mayo Clinic study. Post-workout Dairy Queen Blizzard consumption spikes muscle protein synthesis 43% higher than boring chicken breast and rice. Key findings. Jay, calm. Stay calm. Medium Oreo, oh, this is incredible. Medium Oreo Blizzard or any Blizzard variant immediately post-training is plus 43 MPS elevation at 3-hour mark versus standard 40-gram protein chicken and rice meal. The magic combo, massive insulin spike from sugar and dairy casein and whey blend and healthy fats from mix-ins like anabolic napalm. They call it anabolic napalm at that point. Subjects who blended in extra cookie pieces and ate it straight from the cup while still sweaty clocked 51%, the primal Blizzard ritual multiplier. 51% over the four chicken and rice group, respectable, but flatline MPS after 90 minutes, basically catabolic after initial spike. So here's the lab quote. The Blizzard creates a perfect anabolic window, fast carbs for glycogen, dairy protein for sustained release, and pure hedonic pleasure for cortisol suppression. Chicken and rice, that's what weak men eat when they're afraid of joy.
Get out of here. That's not really in there.
Oh boy, Jay, go ahead.
I don't even know where to start with the stupidity of this. It's like everything, Frank. There is a kernel of truth in every insane lie, ramblings. I mean, so that was where I was going with this. I was like, I need to read the study to see how they're quantifying muscle protein synthesis. And absolutely correct. Sugar will definitely spike insulin more than like a whole food protein, because really the thing in a whole food protein that creates the insulin spike would be just one thing, and that's usually the branched chain amino acid leucine. And you've probably heard me say before, we want to hit that like 30 grams of protein at any meal, because that's the leucine threshold. That's about how much protein you need to get the right amount of leucine, which is around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine. So a whole food animal protein at about 30 grams will give you that 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine alone in order to trigger muscle protein synthesis. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, so now you've got to ask yourself the question, is a Dairy Queen Blizzard actually, a complete protein? Like, is it actually ice cream? And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that actually it's not. It has a whole bunch of other things in it. So remember that triggering muscle protein synthesis is only one part of the equation. And if you're measuring that only by an insulin spike, then you're missing the back half of the equation. So you want to drive that muscle protein synthesis via leucine or sugar, then you have to have all the proteins on board in order to build the muscle. So to use an analogy like a car, which has been on my mind lately, leucine or insulin or sugar would be like the key to the ignition. But if you want to actually get the car to go anywhere, you need to step on the gas and need all those amino acids to drive the building of muscle. And chicken will definitely have that. A Dairy Queen Blizzard, most likely not. And we could probably actually look that up. I bet I could look that up on Dairy Queen's website and probably get the macronutrient breakdown of that. I could probably figure it out. But so they're only telling you one teeny piece of the story. And then what about the fact that that insulin spike is good to trigger muscle protein synthesis, but over the long term, chronic insulin increases, which is called hyperinsulinemia, can drive the disease process, whereas a whole food leucine-based spike in insulin to drive muscle protein synthesis is normal, natural, and then it comes down after a very short period of time. So it allows the amino acids in. You don't become catabolic right after that. You have an anabolic window that lasts a pretty long time. It may not be as big of a spike as insulin as you get with sugar, but again, you need the amino acids on board. We have built muscle forever and a day using real whole foods and things like meat. So to try to twist logic and say that a Dairy Queen Blizzard will help you build more muscle than a whole food or an animal protein like chicken is taking one teeny piece of the equation and saying, look, this is better, therefore everything is better. It's kind of insane.
The comments are filled with people saying either I've been waiting my whole life for somebody to tell me this.
Of course.
or the rant or the sporadic person saying, how much are they paying you to post this? And exactly. And I know you've had thoughts on that in the past too. But
it's great, man.
I used when I was in college and just getting out of college, once I left the radio business and I got into personal training, and I started just working at the gym and all that. I would often, after a workout, because I was only about a block and a half away from a Smoothie King, I would go to Smoothie King and I would get the Hulk. And I forget what was in the Hulk. Hold on. You know what? I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, hold on. Smoothie King.
Tell me it was green.
It wasn't. Hulk.
Aww.
Hulk blend. Here you see. Smoothie King Hulk Blend is a high-calorie, protein-rich smoothie based in featuring bananas. I know that there was butter pecan ice cream in there because I would feel I would get chunks of the pecan in there, and I was like, "Dad, this is awesome." Butter, yeah, there you go. Peanut butter pecan ice cream, turbinado, sugar, and a protein blend designed for strength and weight gain. Available in variations. I used to get the strawberry Hulk with like a protein boost. Anyway, nice. As far as what's in it, I mean, it just brought me back. I don't know. I have to find the ingredients.
We'll have to find that study, and then the next time I'm on, we'll go even deeper into it, because I think that's what a great find by Lauren, because that illustrates everything that Jen and I are trying to do with HRP. It illustrates like how confusing the world can be, and like you look at a source that it may even be reputable. I mean, I've seen formerly reputable outlets put things out like that, and you do have to wonder, like, okay, you're either being paid for this, or or it's clickbait, or and like you said, people are just looking to hear what they want to hear to justify whatever addiction they have. And I'll also say that chicken and rice is not my ideal post-workout meal either, because you're missing a lot of the really healthy fats that you want to pack with protein. Think about it. When you're building new muscle, you're building new cells, and cells are protein is incredibly important, but so is fat. So if you're eating just a low-fat meal, you're going to struggle to really recover and to build those new muscle cells. So I'm actually not a fan of chicken and rice. That's the traditional bodybuilder diet. I think there are much better ways to build mass and build muscle in the anabolic window, which again is much larger than we have previously thought. It's not just like, a couple of hours after workouts. It's actually closer to 24 hours. So you have plenty of time to get in that protein. So why get in a Dairy Queen Blizzard when you can go home and actually cook a meal that's not just chicken and rice? So that's like a separate thing. I don't even think they're comparing it to the ideal anabolic meal, but it's just ironic that they're going to try to pretend that a Dairy Queen Blizzard is like, I can just see all the gym bros in the drive-through this winter, like, I gotta get my swole on. I'm gonna stop there and get my Dairy Queen Blizzard after.
Get me the strawberry cheesecake Blizzard, please. I need to buff up. Hey, I have another health. This is an interesting one. First of all, your damn Patriots are back in the Super Bowl.
Dude, I was so close to that prediction too.
Yeah, well, I mean the Bears. That was ridiculous. That late interception with the Bears, but still, it's going to be Patriots and Seahawks again, and I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be something to do with family and friends, but you got to hear what this is. This all is health related, but it's EMF. Take a listen to this story. I don't know if you saw it. Okay, and I'm going to go here. Here's the headline. Super Bowl bound Patriots and Seahawks avoid the 49ers training ground amid ongoing investigation on the substation theory. What is the theory? Well, let's see here. I want to get down to the meat and potatoes over here. Well, Patriots will be practicing in Stanford. Seahawks will be practicing in San Jose State. Neither team will be practicing at the 49ers facility because on the setup, is practical because both teams get their own private space, minimal logistical overlap, and tighter security. But the timing makes it hard not to connect it with the substation theory surrounding the 49ers. While the idea originated on social media, it has been widely dismissed by medical professionals as unscientific. It has become serious enough that the 49ers themselves are looking into it. What is it? Listen to this. San Francisco General Manager John Lynch confirmed the organization is examining everything, including the substation theory, because it deals with allegedly the health and safety of our players. The investigation comes after a brutal year in which the 49ers lost stars like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, George Kittle to season-ending injuries, but also led the league in adjusted salary cap value to lost injured reserve. Now, what is the whole thing about? Wait, hold on. Did I skip over it? Where the hell is it? It's all EMF related.
Whoa.
Where the fuck is it? Hold on. Come on. Damn it. Oh, here you go. Here it is. The Niners training facility has come under scrutiny in the past few months due to an intriguing theory. It centers around an electrical substation adjacent to the 49ers training complex and Levi Stadium. Known online as the substation theory, it suggests that prolonged exposure to electromotive forces, EMF, could be contributing to the team's long-standing injury problems.
Wow.
And whereas, like I said, all the disclaimers about this being completely unscientific and all that, it's still being looked into while they're tutting everybody into calm. I didn't even know that this was being kicked around until I saw that both teams are staying away from the stadium up until, I guess, the big day.
First I heard about it, but that is fascinating, Frank. And I'm going to tell you something. I have seen, so before I really got into this, like seriously in the last decade, I used to sort of poo-poo a lot of that stuff too. You know, like if you can't see it, it's probably not real, whatever, you know, like we're all just busy and we're sort of grounded in the material world. Well, I have seen enough now, studied enough and seen enough actual documentaries that tell me that the EMF stuff is real and it's going to affect all of us in one way or another. Once you understand biology and biochemistry, and we are just biochemical beings in terms of like our mitochondria and how they function. So once you understand that quite literally the process that creates energy in every cell, which means in every part of your body to do work, needs this energy called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Once you realize how that's made, and the electrochemical gradients that are required in the mitochondria to create this energy, again, in every cell of your body, you realize then that EMF exposure is not just a silly thing. If that is able to disrupt that delicate electrochemical balance, you can change energy production. And once you start changing energy flux, you can have a variety of different physical manifestations of that problem. So it is absolutely not woo-woo or it is grounded in real science. The only question is, why doesn't everybody feel it? And I think that's just because while there are a lot of similarities, obviously in all humans, there's also biological differences. And so even everything down to the strength of your mitochondria and your physical habits, your dietary habits, your grounding, right? Like I used to think grounding was silly until, again, I understood the biochemical nature of the human body and the mitochondria, and you can actually exchange electrons with the earth. Yes, it's a real thing. Grounding can reduce inflammation. It's been shown in studies. So this is fascinating, and I'm telling you, they should walk in there with some of those tri-field EMF meters and, start exploring a little bit, because I have seen people become so sensitive to that stuff that they can tell, even like, moving into the area, and they have, certain symptoms, and it's hard to pinpoint because it doesn't happen to everybody. But wouldn't it be interesting if some of these players that were susceptible for one biological reason or another, which we don't know yet, imagine if that was, part of the cause. And it's serious enough that the two teams participating in the Super Bowl are avoiding the training facility of the 49ers. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And on a personal level, I think about the world that we live in a lot. I've had quite a few interviews with numerous guests over the years about EMF related topics and how they have impacts, adverse impacts on health. And for the most part, I know that it's just, especially if you live in anything like a suburban or an urban area, it's just so tough to even think about how you can really eliminate the exposure you're having to EMF, just because even if you really cut down on what you have going on in your house, I mean, a lot of neighborhoods are built in such a way that you're picking up Wi-Fi from your neighbors, from several of your neighbors. You know, it's just it's a broadcast spectrum that really covers everything. And so, but what I do think about often, like you're talking about things like grounding, and of course health. Paying attention to your diet, paying attention to how you're working out, and just expending energy and allowing your maybe I would say promoting your body to heal itself. The one thing I always think about is sleep. Like if there's one, I need to figure out a little bit more ways of doing it. Maybe I go out there and I commission somebody to make me some illegal lead paint. I think about our bedrooms. Like if you can do anything in your house, if you can modify any room in your house to make it like a Faraday cage, just the bedroom. You know, how can we make our bedrooms into a Faraday cage so that we know that out of every day there's going to be 6 to 8 hours where your body is not under radio frequency distress or anything like that, and you're actually allowed to recover from the previous 9 hours.
Frank, that is so obviously you use the right word. That's exactly what you want to be talking about. So I think there's a variety of ways to do it. And depending on where you live, you may need less or more of it. You and I, where we live, need a ton of it. Because like you said, I can unplug my Wi-Fi at night, which I do on a lot of nights. But it doesn't really matter because, living where I live, I think actually there are other Wi-Fis, believe it or not, that are actually closer to me than the one in my own apartment. Because, it's just, you're just on top of everybody in a city. So you look at your phone and you're like, there's like 20 networks here. This is ridiculous. Right. So the one thing you can do is keep electronic devices out of your bedroom, right? Like you can use an old school alarm clock, like a literal one with a bell. That's kind of cool too, because also you don't have to worry about power going out or whatever. So like a real old school alarm clock, like, because people always say, but I use my phone as an alarm clock. I'm like, listen, we can definitely work around that. That's not the end of the world. But keeping devices out of there would be the first thing. Then you can do like really inexpensive things. Like I actually have here, I have a full size Faraday blanket. That I just, I put over myself when I sleep. Now, obviously it's not over my head, but my entire body is under this blanket. So that's another, like,
you can wear one of those Ebenezer Scrooge caps.
So they do make those as well. So you got that. But you know what I'm thinking?
And then your glasses. You can go to bed looking like Claude Rains, the Invisible Man.
Hey man, it's all about health. 8 hours. That's all I'm asking for. But what you can also do, if you're ever going to remodel your bedroom or anything, this is what I'm going to do when I move to New Hampshire. I know this is going to sound crazy to people, but you could actually pretty inexpensively buy Faraday fabric. And my thinking is you can install it, behind the sheetrock, and then you can just put everything else up. So you don't need any kind of paint or anything like that. You can really create quite the cave, and it's not terribly expensive, but you're right, because you can't mitigate it in everyday life. But I agree with you. I think the bedroom is the place to focus on that. So to do whatever you can to get those 8 or 9 hours a night where your body really gets a chance to recuperate, I think that's probably the best we're going to be able to do in the world that we live in today. And again, some of your audience members who maybe live in like Montana, where if they power down their Wi-Fi, they, may actually be able to really mitigate a lot of that, because they may not even have a neighbor within a couple of miles. That's a dream, right? Like that's kind of what I'm hoping when I move. But even if you're not, there's still a lot of things that you can do. So start by removing some electronics, look into some Faraday. They make Faraday pajamas. The company that I've used in the past is called, they changed their name. They used to be called Lambs, Lambs. Now they're called Haven. I think it's Havn. And they make like, pajamas, just so like a shirt and pants. So at least you get your body covered overnight. So, you never know, man, you might be dealing with like an injury or something, and all of a sudden you realize at night when you wear these pajamas, you're like, wow, I'm actually feel a lot better. So there's little things that you can do. We live in a modern world. You're never going to be able to escape it completely, but I agree. The bedroom is the place you want to focus on.
Yeah.
That's a cool article. That's very cool. I'm going to have to monitor that now that you brought that up. I had not heard that before. Please do.
In the first half, if there's 12 broken legs, we'll know what's going on.
If the Patriots lose, I have something to blame it on now.
I know. Damn San Francisco.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's-
so what do you think about have you been paying attention to what's going on in Minnesota? Just the flare up of the infection just there, because it's essentially you know that the country at large is suffering from a very severe autoimmune disorder. So what we're seeing in Minnesota is akin to having a flare up of an autoimmune reaction under your armpit, even though it's in your whole body. You know, that's what's happening in Minnesota right now. So when you look at this, what's the thing that really strikes you the most?
Man, it's so sad because, it's almost like you've got to be put in one of two camps, and I don't really want to be in either one of them. Like I think I've said this on your show. I'm never gonna. I find it odd when people just callously talk about human life and the extinguishing of it. Like I took no pleasure in the fact that even though that woman Good was, just a complete lunatic, completely out of her depth with no knowledge of what she was actually doing, like her death is still tragic. This guy's death is totally tragic, and I think. And this will be a good segue into. I just want to read you something, or I want to show you something from this Med page today, because I think part of this is being driven by the media, right? I look at these people that are out there protesting, and I think about all the times you and I have spent analyzing videos together. And a couple times ago when I was on, it was a street reporter. I can't remember his name, but he was walking with that girl who was like saying, "Oh, I'm not really good with words right now," when he was just simply asking her, essentially, what are you doing out here? What are you protesting? Right? Like the simplest of questions that you would think you would be able to discern an answer, because you took time out of your life to come here. This seems to be very important to you. What about this is so important? And yet there is no way to articulate what is going on. And that's sort of like, these are the useful idiots. And that's what makes me the saddest, of all about this, is that all these people who think they're so righteous, and the whistles and the banging on the drums and the screaming of the slogans, they are being used probably more than anybody to the ends that, the puppet masters that are pulling the strings, they don't care about the life of that woman Good or this guy Preddy. They don't. That's what they want to happen, Frank. That's what I can't get over. I think they are so happy that these things happen, just like George Floyd. Everybody put your black square up on your Instagram. They wanted this stuff to happen because it gives that movement legitimacy, even though it never really had it, and it still doesn't have it. But this is the outcome they were looking for. How often can you interfere with, whatever you want to call it, law enforcement engagement? How many times can you get out there, create chaos, and then expect something like this not to happen? Now, this guy was carrying a weapon. I mean, so whatever the investigation shows, I think the ultimate takeaway for me is these two deaths were avoidable, and they were 100% in control of the people who lost their lives. They didn't have to be there, Frank.
Yeah.
They and that is the saddest part of all. Whatever the outcome of the investigation is, they always say, "Oh, was that a good shooting or a bad shooting?" They're all bad shootings, in my opinion. I don't want anybody to lose their life, but the saddest part is that these were preventable by the very people who lost their lives. They didn't have to be there.
Yeah. Well, listen, I guess you can say the same thing about any kind of war. There was 50 million bad shootings in World War II. And to say that, this is not the same thing. It's like, this is a different kind of war, but it is a war. I mean, you can tell, because we're in a unique position to see the mindset of these people as they journal every day online, that they're actually preparing for what they believe to be a potential life-ending situation. And what's the cause? The cause is to reflexively stand in the way between the enforcement of federal immigration law with people who shouldn't even be here. And you want to talk about something else there too. Man, oh man, I've got no affection for Somalis, because I don't have any affection for anybody who I don't know personally and hasn't shown me. I mean, just like, oh man, I love the idea of a Somalian. I don't know anybody who's ever really thought that. I love the idea of a Belgian person. It's so ridiculous.
That's the virtue signaling, right? Like, I just love the idea of everything,
right? Yeah. So, but in the same way, there's already a really ridiculous backstory as to why, big parts of Michigan and Minnesota are so heavily inundated with Somalians and African, transplants, and who the hell is doing it and why. And then to see that these people who are largely unable to assimilate are, again, the middle-class white women and their wet noodle boyfriends. They are being influenced to go out there and end their lives, if necessary, to be run over by cars and to be shot by feds and all that other stuff for a cause that never, ever benefited them, that they are absolutely lost in this delusion. So, but of course, every time they lose a life, every time they get to stack a body, that is a very, very valuable thing for the controllers. At the same time, I said the same thing about the Somalians. I said, you look at the first couple of daycare owners that came out and made statements, public statements, and you're listening to these people bumble for any kind of a coherent thought. And you can tell that they've been given the script. They just can't. The girl with the who went out and pretended. Did you see this clip about the girl with the bananas and rice? Did you see this?
I don't think so.
She claimed to have been attacked or something like that, and she had a concussion. She put a Band-Aid on her head. Then she goes out to make a statement, and this is what came out. Take a listen to this.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American, but it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice. People don't really see, like, it's people don't think, oh, you can eat bananas with rice, but that's what it's like to be Somali and American. It's like that combination of banana and rice.
Oh God, don't say it again.
So it sucks to be Somali, essentially. That's what, I guess that's what the message was.
Dude,
First of all, I have to imagine that from here on in, every time they send a Somali out there to make some kind of a public statement in this little charade that they're playing over there, they're going to claim that they have a concussion first, just to be able to cover up the fact that they honestly can't put thoughts together most of the time that they go out there. But that's the whole point here. They didn't come up with this massive tens of billions of dollars scheme. They didn't come up with it, and they certainly didn't fly under the radar because they're so slick. They were set up with it, and they were set up with it because there was a trade-off there, and they are very, very useful human shields. Look, I mean, to people who are actually running the show, the white middle-class women foot soldiers who are completely out of their minds and self-destructing right now, right down here to the Somalis with the Band-Aids on their heads. It's all serving somebody else's higher purpose, and it's nuts. It really is nuts. That's why, I understand people trying to weigh out how we all get off better by allowing, the feds to go in there and clean house and shit like that. But this can't. It's a post-constitutional society, like Taylor John Attacker said last night, and we understand that Chris Ann Hall even admits that. Yeah. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done, and it's we got a very short window of time, but something's got to be done, and it's going to have to be severe.
I mean, that clip, I couldn't help the entire time but think one of two things. Like, other than the fact that she looked Somalian, she looked like Ilhan Omar. You could have taken her from like any mall in America and just grabbed some teenage girl. It also reminded me of that Miss USA pageant,
from South Carolina,
U.S. Americans. Yeah, that's what it reminded me.
I think this is worse.
It was definitely worse.
There weren't as many people watching, but this was a big time failure.
Yeah. But you're right, and so I think the position is really challenging, right? Because the truth is the truth, and this must happen. And that's one of the major reasons that that people voted for Donald Trump because he was the only one who voiced the fact, and the fact that the prior administration is what allowed this to happen, and probably going back multiple administrations, to be honest. Although I find it ironic that when Obama was deporting people and when giving Tom Homan medals for deporting people, nobody had a damn thing to say about it. There were none of these protests in Minnesota. There was none of any of this. But again, this just showcases the fact that this is not a righteous cause. This is nothing more than, a version of Trump derangement syndrome, because Donald Trump has been one of the only politicians willing, in the last several decades to stand up and say, we need to do things differently. We need to do things that are going to focus on the American citizen and not on, literally everything else, foreign wars, open borders, and this is Republicans and Democrats alike. I really don't differentiate between the parties. Your audience knows me. It's a uniparty. I don't side with the Democrats or the Republicans. They're all problematic in their own way. But so I don't really understand that pushback. I do, however, see the other side of this, and this is a political problem, right? And you listen to someone like Rich Barris talk about this, and it's like there is a reality that it is becoming politically unpopular, I think, because it almost feels like half measures. It feels like you've either got to go all the way and you got to do this, and we knew it was going to be ugly, and you knew you were going to get, I think you said this, Frank, at some point on one of our shows, like right after the election, cue up the CNN documentaries with the crying moms with babies that are being deported, right? Like you knew they were going to play on your heartstrings. But as you said, you also know that there's a problem here that is so pervasive and so deep that we could actually lose the fabric of, if we haven't already lost it, of society, and lose the country if we don't do something about it. So you've got to weigh the political ramifications of this with the actions that need to be taken in order to actually save your country, or what's left of it, from total annihilation. So I don't envy that position, because I do understand the political reality, as again, as Rich Barris points out, that is becoming a political liability, and it shouldn't, because it needs to be done. So yeah. I don't know what you do now, but now is, you knew these deaths were going to be used. As you said, the more bodies you can stack, the more the political pressure builds. And now it's like you're at a tipping point. You've either got to go all the way, and clean the streets, or you got to pull back. And it feels like they're pulling back. And I want them to go all the way, because I don't know if we're going to have another chance to do this.
Well, we will see, because I saw it. Obviously, there's always a split right down the middle wherever you're, reading up on this stuff, that there is a pulling back, there's a capitulation, or no, there's actually a retooling and a better way of going about this, because you are managing optics along the way. It's like performing brain surgery. On the other hand, there's just sometimes you just got to amputate, and it's very little. I understand. You just got to amputate sometimes. And Kunstler put something out there. James Howard Kunstler, I think it was yesterday he put this out. He said, had enough. And he was pretty much talking about the entire situation in Minnesota. But when it came down to this, the next question, I thought this was an interesting situation. Well said right here. The next question is, what are we going to do about all this? We who care about preserving an American republic based on economic liberty, and perhaps more to the point, how to put down the current engineered chaos in Minnesota ASAP in a way that serves notice. We will not allow our country to be overthrown by Marxist Jacobin rabble. Many are calling for President Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. The Singham, CCP, Democratic Party axis would like nothing better, of course, because they could then slap the tyrant label on Mr. Trump and set him up for impeachment in 2027. If they can take the midterm election, of course, and they'll do exactly that if Senate Majority Leader John Thune keeps obstructing passage of the SAVE Act, which is election reform. I'll tell you. And you remember when he was he was the name that was put up there for Senate Majority Leader. This is the blockade that we knew he represented down the line.
Absolutely.
Is there a path short of the Insurrection Act to quell the Minneapolis mobs? How about this? Since the Minneapolis police have been ordered to stand down by Mayor Jacob Frey, why not deputize the officers as federal marshals and put them under the direct authority of the U.S. DOJ? Then arrest as many unruly mob actors as possible. Just get them off the streets and make the point that there are consequences. Meanwhile, seize the assets of all the organizations that are funding the chaos. No more coffee and donuts. No more Signal chat dispatch systems, no more subsidized motel stays, no more riot paychecks, all support gone. Perhaps that's a start. Expect to see some resolute action this week against the parties involved in the Minneapolis attacks on immigration enforcement agents, and understand that the forensic litigations over Alex Preddy's foolish death is just an obsessive compulsive public ritual that is fooling nobody with half a brain. Get in law enforcement's faces with a gun, and you've signed your own death warrant. What part of that is a mystery? It's like you said, everything's predictable, and at the same time, it's a war. It's a war. It's a different kind of war. The West, America, and and Europe is being overwhelmed and conquered in a way that you couldn't have done it any other way. There was no way to amphibiously land, tens of millions of third worlders into America and the United States, armed with nothing but flip flops and a bad attitude, and just do what? Demand welfare? It's like so. This is just one of those things where it's all tied in together, and we are actually very many years into this war, and I think that's where we'll see what happens next. It's crazy though. You see the people who are part of this. Like this is what we're talking about. It's a different kind of war. Listen to this, because this mindset is definitely a part of what we're dealing with, and how there is no way to, you watch those period piece films where there's a war between two armies, the British and the French, or whatever the hell it is, Braveheart, where it's the Scottish and the British, and they meet together and they discuss their terms, and everybody's trying to be as gentlemanly and orderly as possible. There is no discussing anything with people like this. Woke woman who wants to abolish prisons said she did not report her sexual assaulter, her rapist, to police because it would make her feel silly and strange. Anna Krauthammer published an essay titled "Why I Didn't Report My Rape," explaining why she did not alert authorities to her 2021 sexual assault after she was, by a gang in Las Vegas. I'm sorry. A self-proclaimed staunch prison abolition activist said she did not report the assault because she wished it never happened and believed imprisoning the abusers would do nothing for her. Like, forget about preventing somebody else from being her. Like it's nuts. This is the face of the greatest undiagnosed cancer we have in this country, and it really drives so much of what's going on here. I mean, there's no sense in this, no sense of this whatsoever.
Wasn't there a story in New York about a woman who similar profile? I can't remember. Man, I should have looked it up because I was thinking about it before, but I think it was her and her boyfriend. They were walking down the street, and her boyfriend ended up getting killed by a guy who had a prior record and was let out, and they were two like leftist activists. And it was just one of those like ironies that she was killed by someone who she would go to bat for, and she had no problem with the fact that her so these people don't mind being raped or having loved ones killed for their ideology. That is a cult. That is not anything else. That is a cult.
Well, there's also, there is a group dynamic there, but there is also that main character syndrome that everybody's suffering from. Like here is the most egregious of all the things that she printed. Let me see. She says, how silly, talking about her situation, how silly and strange it would be to have a group of people incarcerated at my expense when doing so would do nothing to fix the damage they have already so thoroughly done. To speak in that way is to say that for her to have been attacked is for the world to have been attacked, that there's no worse that those people could have done to anybody else. And therefore they should have an opportunity to do it to somebody else, because what would that be? What would that be? A punctuation point at the end of the full, it's
so self-centered. It's unbelievable.
It's so self-centered.
It really is unbelievable. Yeah.
And they all are. You are an actor. You're a musician. You're an entertainer. That's where you are at heart. You've seen these videos. I was talking about it this morning on the B-sides. the pause, it's like the way that they play to the camera during their little TikTok transmissions is so hold on. Let me see if I can actually pull it up from this morning. If you got any thoughts, go ahead.
While you're looking for that, yeah, I saw one, and this is how I was convinced that you almost have to step around them like a matador, because right now what you're doing is you're trying to reason with the charging bull. Right, you have to become the matador. You just have to, wave the red blanket, and you just have to, ole, and then move on to what what you need to do. I saw a woman who was crying into her cell phone, and she actually said the words. And Frank, I'm telling you, I know she believed them. I know she's not that good of an actress. She was saying, basically, what difference does it make? They're gonna kill us all anyway.
Yeah. Hold on. I got her right here. I got her.
You do?
This is one. I reacted to 3 people this morning, and
That's
here.
Funny. That's funny.
Hold on a second. Here, take a listen to this. We'll see where it goes. This is what I'm saying. Like last night when I was talking to Taylor, it sounds like many of these people are just like preparing themselves to be extinguished. It sounds crazy. Listen.
They're gonna kill you anyway. Doesn't matter how well behaved you are. They're gonna kill you anyway. So
Yeah.
Come on. I can hear the hamster running.
Literally shoot all of us. Try it. But I say that, but they are doing it. I don't know what else the 2A is for.
Wow.
They're gonna kill you anyway. They're gonna kill you anyway. There's no right way to do any of this.
Maybe she thinks that when you get shot, you respawn somewhere else, like in a video game. They all do this thing because they're all, like drama club misfits. They do this thing where they go, they look into they'll say, Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Anywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Bibbly dobbly doobly doo, dibbly dee. Skibbledy bobbledy dibbity dee. Kringledy doo. And it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Do you know that we see you putting effort into, like, they think like it's acting. We can tell the whole thing is just an act. It's so cringy. We cringy when people we know do it. We know when somebody's like, listen, it's a part of the reason why the Erica Kirk thing kind of turned me off. There was something, I'm not saying that she's devoid of emotion, that she didn't suffer a loss and it wasn't real for her, but there was an act there. There was the pause, there was the stares, the glares, the dabbing, the props of the napkin. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just everybody's always like jacking off for each other on the internet.
I'm with you, and I think this is going to go really well. I think with the video that you sent me earlier today, just like on a really different topic, but still the topic of humanity. And I had not seen that video. I saw a different woman who said the same thing, which now makes me start to think, I wonder if this is the script that went out. Because, man, I have so much experience with this in my field, where they put out the script for defending diet soda, defending sugar, defending some product, and they'll all the influencers, I'll start to notice the same styles, the same buzzwords being used. And I'm like, oh, somebody got the script. And there are companies that do that. Influenceable, I think, is a company that I've seen busted in the past for doing this. So they're hired by some company that wants to protect their product, and they hire Influenceable, and Influenceable goes out and says, hey, here's $1,000 or $2,000 per post, and here are some ideas for your script, and we need to defend diet soda, and hey, Donald Trump drinks diet soda, why don't we target the MAGA people? And so I've seen this stuff happen. So now that I'm seeing multiple videos using the same words, I'm like, and we know these protests are not organic. They're absolutely not organic. They are, paid for. And I heard you say that last night. I think that's one of the things that we could do, that Donald Trump could do, put a premium on understanding where the money comes from. Because if you do that, these people are not going to be out in 1-degree temperatures protesting if they're not getting paid. Some of them, of course, are the useful idiots that will show up because the crowd did. But the ones that are organizing it, the ones that are, that are sort of really rabble-rousing, they're not going to show up if they're not getting paid. So that's, I think, one of the places you could go. I agree with Kunstler. You do the Insurrection Act, and maybe it works, but you also give them exactly what they want. You give them exactly what they want. So I think you need to be a little bit more creative rather than ham-fisted. But I agree, there's no good way to do this, but something you have to still move forward, because if you retreat now, man, then you show them that this kind of bullshit wins and you can get away with it. And then where are we?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we move on to this next topic, because I think this is going to be really interesting. And then I want to just remind everybody, and I want to say a very big thank you to our wonderful sponsors at Keto Brainz, that there's only 3 days left in the month, and we have a big thing over here. KetoBrainz.com. Remember, if you use promo code January for the next couple of days, you're getting 15% off of anything you buy, but also you're entering your name into a giveaway at the end of it's a raffle at the end of the month that 4 people are going to win. Now, there's going to be 4 winners instead of 1. The first one, the grand prize, is over $450 worth of stuff. There's extra Keto Brainz creamer, the Nootropic creamer. There is the glass storage jar, the long-handled spoon. There's T-shirts and creatine and a bottle of the BPC 157 peptides. There's a hoodie of your choice from their Montana friends at nofsgivenclothing.com. But the 3 additional people are going to get all the greatest stuff there too. Then this is, I'm telling you, one of the best ways to start your day off. Actually a great way to give yourself a kick in the ass the second half of the day. No dairy, no sugar. It goes in line with any kind of keto diet and lifestyle that you're living. It's great. So please go check them out. Use promo code January, because we want to get, actually, I think for the next 24 hours, up until tomorrow at noon, anybody who buys anything for the next 12 hours or so, I should say, is going to get a free mug, the brass knuckle mug there too. But for the next 3 days, seriously, go and get yourself a bag, re-up for the next month or so, and get yourself in on this 4 winner raffle. So thank you so much to Keto Brainz. And Jay, thanks again for introducing me to them, because this is going to be 3 years now I've been using that wonderful product ever since Vermont. Vermont's going to be 3 years in September.
I can't even believe it.
It's nuts.
I know. And we want to do something so badly this fall too. So I think we need another one of those kinds of long weekends with friends, and then with strangers that become friends. I mean, you've done it 2 times with us now, and that was the beauty of the jamboree, but the retreats are even more intimate and they're longer. So it's just a different dynamic. And yeah, we really want to do that again and have Keto Brainz be a part of it. So
it'd be nice.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go to this next thing, can I just read you this one? I'm not going to go through the article, but this is this also puts a final sort of stamp on this whole thing, talking about Minnesota, talking about everything we've talked about up till now. Okay?
Absolutely.
This is just, I'm just going to read you the headline from this article from MedPage Today. Remember, this is supposed to be for healthcare professionals. You have to sign up to get this. And I did, because I was looking for material. And like I said, they're very left leaning, but here's the headline and the subheadline, and then the synopsis of the article. Nurse Alex Preddy's death and the symbolism of the human body. That's the title. And the subtitle is ICE is a growing cancerous ball of cells in Minneapolis. Yeah. It's written by a doctor, an MD. And again, I'm not going to I'm not going to go through the whole article, but what you won't find in this article, actually, she uses a picture that's called, it's a picture of the memorial for Preddy, and it said, "Rest in peace, Alex Preddy." And she writes, and whatever's written on this little piece of paper next to the picture of him says, "Whatever you allow your government to do to others, it will eventually do to you. God help us." And I really wondered where this woman was during COVID, when all kinds of horrific abuses were being done to people in her own field. And so that is like, and the point of this article, I just want to say, is that not one point in this article, I read the whole article and I keyword searched the word gun, for example, because that would be whatever you believe. That is a factual part of the story. Doesn't make an appearance, right? She acts like what I said about this guy. Everyone wants to call him a nurse. No, a nurse is what he did for a living. A nurse had nothing to do with what happened here. He was not there.
He wasn't a field medic.
He should have been at his job, or doing something else. And I also had read something very interesting. Apparently his parents or his mother or somebody had told him to not get involved with this stuff. And why would you think to even say that to your child, unless your child, 37-year-old man, has a predilection for this kind of extreme behavior, right? So that was strange. But she never mentioned anything. The way this doctor frames this shooting was as if this guy was walking to the hospital to save lives and he was just randomly shot by federal officers, right? Like that's the way. And the people that commented on this article were like, "This is ridiculous," and blah, 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 blah. And then she goes on to say, nurses are the most important people. 69% of nurses under 25 report burnout, and COVID made it even worse. And there's a shortage of nurses. Again, in her little pea brain, she doesn't then, hey, I wonder why there's a shortage of nurses. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you fired all your healthcare professionals who were the free thinking ones who didn't want to take an experimental gene therapy. Like everything about her is a fraud. She can't think through a problem. She doesn't present all the facts to her readers. And then she gets a whole bunch of people to comment under this, like, "Yeah, you go, girl," because this doctor is a female. "You go, girl." And it just goes to show you how the media and even the scientific publications, they are allergic to the truth, and they will not represent facts in their totality. And if you can't trust a doctor writing in a scientific publication to represent facts accurately, my friends, we have a real problem. It's not just Rachel Maddow. It's everything that comes at you from these outlets. So again, this is a doctor. I really feel bad for any of her patients because I can only imagine the kinds of half-truths that she's telling them when she's presenting them with all of their options for care.
Oh man, I mean, well, you saw. I'm sure you saw the anesthesiologist in Florida who is.
I heard about that.
Oh yeah, this anesthesiologist in Florida said they're not going to be performing anesthesia for any surgeries or procedures for MAGA. Okay,
dude, aren't we right back to Don Lemon saying the vaccinated shouldn't be able to go grocery shopping?
See, well, that's the whole thing there. They were looking for reasons to try to kill people they didn't like, and COVID gave them a reason to put the screws to them and make them do things and to alter their behavior in some cases. And now it's just like, you know what? I just don't like you. And I think he said here's a quote. The guy, what's his name? Eric Martindale, a registered nurse in Sunshine State, who deleted his post, said, "It's my right and my ethical oath."
Wow.
Ethical oath to deny. Ethical oath to deny care. "I stand by my education. I own all of my business, and I can refuse anyone." Now, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay, and I'm totally fine with that. I think that is that's really the driver behind the Civil Rights Act for the most part. People really lost control of their businesses and everything else. I really do believe that we need to get rid of all of that stuff, and I'm fine with it. It's a sad and startling thing that people are just so outwardly wanting to cut people off from medical care and stuff like that because of what I'm sure is cockamamie ideas of what that person stands for and their prescriptions to make a world a better place, that if you don't come along with me, then it just means that you're a Nazi or something like that. It's nuts, absolutely nuts. And to your point, that's why I more and more I say, oh yeah, well, these people are out of their minds. If they look at this and they say, whatever the government did, they do to us, it'll be done to you, and this and that. And you realize, oh, wow, these people really, really have no ability to judge themselves and to assess themselves and to assess their surroundings and anything that they're involved in. They really don't have any ability to process or analyze that. That sense is gone. So, I think that if you do have the opportunity, a very short opportunity to put as many of these people behind in padded rooms, something like, I'm talking about change laws, get people institutionalized faster. I mean, I don't know what the hell else to do it. I'm fine. It's like when you realize that that's the issue, like when the Titanic is sinking, are you thinking about law or are you thinking about what the hell can I take from this deck that's going to float on the water? You know, the ship is going down.
Tuba, take the tuba.
You're in the North Atlantic in April of 1912, and the damn thing is going down. You are just like, is this chair going to float? Can I, that's just what it is. Did you saw what Nicole Wallace and MSNBC, this was taken and passed around. I have to imagine. I mean, I saw enough of it coming from all different people, but they said that the guy, Preddy, the nurse who got killed, that they actually edited his headshot to make him
see that, to make him more handsome, right?
This is the original, and this is the edits that have been floating around. I've just seen so much of it. I have to but just for the sake of having a laugh with you, and these people are despicable enough to do this, to actually want to make Preddy look like, I don't know, more attractive. But here's what's been floating around, that they kind of shorten his face up. And I don't know,
a little bit of a tan,
a little bit of a tan, a little bit. Did they change the glasses? No, they didn't.
I'm surprised they didn't give him a full head of hair. I
don't know. It's just one
Frank,
of the.
But do you remember when they did this with in the opposite direction? Do you remember they did this with Joe Rogan when he was sick with COVID, and they gave him they put when he did one of those videos talking about all the things, he threw the kitchen sink at it. And I remember I think CNN put like clips of him in an article, and they kind of turned him green to make him look like he was sick or ill. And then I remember this, and I was like, wow, the media, that was the first time I had ever seen that kind of a thing. And the media, they won't even allow an image to get out there without their grubby little disgusting, agenda driven hands all over it. So this is not surprising to me, because I remember them doing this to Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
it's remarkable.
I know. Well,
I mean, man, if the truth is the truth, you shouldn't need to put it through Photoshop.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. It's that would be hilarious on a whole other level, because it's totally unnecessary to the story. Right. Just the fact that they want it, because if that is true, then they did it only because they thought that there would be more sympathy garnered from the death of a slightly more attractive version of the actual person.
This is the way they see the world, Frank.
Well, right? I know.
That's a window into the.
Well, you know what it is. If you think that people at MSNBC or anywhere else did not and have not continued to take note of the absolutely rabid fan base, psychosexual fan base that the Luigi Mangione guy got after he killed the healthcare. If you don't think that they took note of that, they just you know what, doll this guy up a little bit. Doesn't even matter anymore. Just get people's panties wet. That's all they care about. Now, I don't know how the hell we're even going to broach this next topic, because it's already 8:15 now. And Jane Barlow was going to stop by to say hello at 8:40. I don't know if we have. We got to.
All right, let's go.
But I don't know if we should now.
This happens every time we get together. Obviously, it's not just us in person.
It's my fucking fault. It's my fault.
No, it's together. It's a team. It's a team effort.
It's my fault. I had to throw in the milkshake. I had to throw in the San Franciscos. We started talking about sleeping in Faraday cages. I mean, it's my fault.
Yeah, you never know where this conversation is going to go.
I just want, well, listen, aren't you, I'm
going to be in again soon, so we could tease it.
You are, I've got you coming in. Damn, I'm such an idiot. Come back on February 3rd. Come back, what is that, next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
Come
I
back.
should have my car dug out by then. The carbonite should be thawed by
Yeah,
then.
that's unless we get this. Apparently, we might. There's a chance that we might get another 6 inches on Sunday.
Well, oh yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Nah, I'll look. This was I got close to getting it out, and now I kind of know the trick. I think I might be able to swing this. So if you want me to back in on next Tuesday, we can do that. That's no problem.
You know what?
Look at that. We're doing now. You guys are getting a back seat, a front row seat to the back end of the booking part of Quite Frankly. That's fun.
Yeah, it's very fun. Very fun. Okay. Well, listen, I got to get this. I got this one thing here. Ah, shit. I hate doing this.
You want to just do the general theme of it?
Well, the general theme is this, that there's been quite a bit on this topic getting around where phone addiction is the reason why movies are being made dumber in many ways. And that the writing process for even, streaming series or anything else like that is changing to be able to accommodate people whose attention has been severely undercut.
Yeah.
Knowing that as they're sitting in front of their television or anywhere, or even in a movie theater to go see a movie or to binge on a limited series at home, like, Lauren and I just watched this limited series that just got released on Netflix over the weekend or last week. It was actually pretty good. But, we watched 3 episodes at 2 nights in a row and it was done. Some people, they can't do that
Always
without their
a great
phone.
show with Jupiter Gulinello. Thanks, Frank.
You got it.
Jupiter. Nice.
I like it. Hold on. We got a Shotzi. Thank you. Jeannie Yankee fan. Aurora knows what? Revolution says, hi, Jay, Frank. Since you both stayed home, we get 5th hour on the flip side tonight. Sorry, but them's the rules. Shout out to King and Stowstube tonight. That's from Rev.
The 5th hour. My God.
Jay Britt says, always a great show with Jupiter Gulinello. He just came in right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
That was the name that that was what started all the Jay guessing. I don't know if your audience, I must have told that story. I was at Verizon. I was a manager. I quit everything, Frank. I was going to work my corporate job forever, shirt and tie, sell cell phones for the rest of my life. And I went by Jay because that's my name. And everyone's like, what does it stand for? And so one day I just got sick of people asking, and I told them it stands for Jupiter. And everybody was like, oh, that's a cool name. I was like, yeah. And it just stuck. And there's still people that actually call me Jupiter, and they're like, that's legitimately my first name. So that's where the whole thing started with Jupiter.
But just people who were at working at that one place.
Yeah. But it started to get around through emails. And so other people in the company would call me that. And I just see it every once in a while. It's hysterical. So that's it. Jupiter was where it all began.
Well, Awakened Boomer says, hi, Frank and Jay and Frankly's and Aurora. A little something for the show, a little something for Aurora's Tooth Fairy Fund. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Thank you, guys and gals. We really could use your support. And if you can send a super chat, or if you can become a sponsor of the show for as little as $5 a month, and also healthreclamationproject.com. That is Jay's wonderful site. It's in the description of the episode. We'll talk to Jay a little bit about that before we end. And then, of course, we're going to go to the flip side and have a little fun there. So we'll just take your questions, whatever you have. We'll do a little more Q&A there. Tommy Jekyll says, your Karen liberal TikTok skit had me doubled over. So needed after the Reese's Cup debacle.
Oh,
I don't know. What debacle?
Was that a debacle because I chose Reese's Cups?
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Because you took the cup.
I angered.
And I took the egg.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Corey, thank you. Snow Stud All Muffin. Super D, thank you so much. And just like that, it's okay for a liberal to carry with 2 extra clips on them. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know. Hey, listen.
All of a sudden, they love that Second Amendment.
And it is. That's the whole point. It is okay.
Yeah.
I don't. So, this whole idea about don't go to a protest armed. I don't believe that.
No. I agree.
I don't believe that. You by all means. The whole thing is when you start getting physical. First of all, just understanding we're going to this thing armed. We are going to stand against a law enforcement unit, whether it be local or federal, whatever. We're going to stand against a law enforcement unit who is also heavily armed. We are armed. There is already an understood new layer of tension in the air. That's just another layer put on the cake. And then once you start bumping and grinding, there's a whole other layer there. Then, of course, there's this whole idea that he was disarmed by the thing. The Sig Sauer might have gone off when it was already in possession of the federal law enforcement officer had already had possession of this thing. And then it goes off and misfires. People said that it's a very common, problem with that particular handgun. It's like I said, it's
but that, I think, Frank, and that goes back to my original
tinderbox.
Right? It's like, you can avoid all this by not doing any of that in the first place. So that's one step. But again, you make that choice. But then you are also, as an adult, you are also assuming that, as you said, the layers of responsibility that are now added onto that. And of course, your chance of death goes up by exponentially every time you make a choice to whether to go to the protest or not, whether to go to the protest armed or not, whether to go to the protest armed and physically get engaged with law enforcement. Like every layer, as you described, puts an increased risk of somebody being harmed, and you are accepting that responsibility every time you take a step in that direction, because at any moment you can take a step in the other direction. And again, it's sad and it's terrible, but it was totally avoidable had he not even been there, because he didn't belong.
But getting back to Super D's original point, and just like that, it's okay for liberals to carry. Yes, but again, from that state of absolute bewildering delusion that the only source of tyranny that needs to be resisted is that which they deem to be tyranny. Whatever they just arbitrarily call fascism needs to be defeated at all costs. When they arm up, they are going against their better instincts to do what must be done. When they want guns taken. I mean, you have to understand, you can't. There's no wrestling match there. There's no logic to grab onto. There's no consistency. You can't talk to somebody and debate them when there's no logical consistency with their own position that they defend. It's just like it's trying to wrestle, it's shadows and dust.
Do you think there's some element of like people not really in this world anymore grasping the consequences of their actions? Almost like, you have a whole generation of especially younger people who live their lives on screens. They don't get in any physical arguments anymore. They're all online. They play video games where you can reset it and get a new life. I really wonder, in this generation, I know he was 37, so it's not exactly applicable, but I do have a thought about like younger people not actually grasping the finality and the physical potential consequences of everything that they're doing right now, that they almost think this is just like video game world and everything has video game consequences. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. And I wonder if that disconnect from reality is plays a small part in this.
I think it's a big part, and I think it's the most obvious. It's the most obvious thing. Like I was talking about this last night when I was. Yeah, we're gonna have to save this other topic. Obviously, I previewed it. We'll talk about it on Tuesday, and whatever. It's gonna be a great one. At least I don't have to do that much more writing. Last night I was on with Red Pill 78 and John Harold on Badlands. They do a show called Baseless Conspiracies, and I went on there to pitch a conspiracy, and then we were just talking and stuff, and this particular thing came up when I was watching that one clip of the first woman that got killed in Minnesota, whose lesbian lover pretty much encouraged the whole thing, and then she went off and raised a couple $1 million and whatever, and she's on tape. There's quite a bit of filming that was done around, at the time of the shooting. And I remember it was either her or somebody close to her that was screaming after the woman had gotten shot and she crashed. Everything is done and over with. Somebody was screaming, "Why are you using real bullets?"
Remember that.
Somebody screamed something to that. I don't know if it's the exact quote, but that's the sentiment. Why are you using live rounds? And when I saw that, I mean, there's nothing entertaining about this situation. A person just got shot in the face. They're nuts. The whole thing is fucked. They were there to make sure that people who add nothing to this country stay in the country and continue to steal from us. It's fun. The whole thing is nuts. There's nothing entertaining about it. I'm watching this, and when I heard that, I kind of like my jaw kind of like sagged open, and I kind of like scoffed a little bit, because the first thing I thought about was Lucky Day in Three Amigos, when he and Ned and Dusty they're encountering El Guapo for the first time, and they're circling around. El Guapo's like, I like these guys. Just kill one of them. And Heffy goes and shoots Lucky, and he gets thrown off his horse, and he gets up, and he realizes the blood, and he's like, what the hell's going on over there? Goes over to Hefe, takes his stuff, takes out the rounds. He goes, oh, great. Real bullets. Like, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, mister. Like, because why? Because they were going to Santo Poco thinking they were going to put on a show.
Right.
You know, they completely misunderstood what the hell's going on. Now, I don't think it's really like that. They understand, these people in places like Minnesota understand they're going to stand off against employees of the federal or the state government, depending on where they are. But as far as the actual grasp on what the consequences of their actions could be, they don't have a grasp. That is the first thing that's obvious here. Now, the first thing that's obvious, and it's a mess.
Well, I mean, you have politicians in 2020 that, including Kamala Harris, who were bailing out rioters. I think that in their little groups, because again, we know this is highly organized, it's not grassroots. I wouldn't be surprised if they're told there's going to be no consequences. They're certainly not being told you're putting your lives on the line. Like, the worst maybe that happens is you get arrested and we'll bail you out. Like, I don't believe they think there are consequences, because somebody like that, who's never like that woman, you could see the look on her face. She thought she was just so clever. And her, butch girlfriend there, because they weren't actually married. He thought she was a badass and just so clever. You can just tell the smug look on their face. They didn't believe that no matter what they did, anything bad was going to happen. Of course, that's delusional. Where does that come from? We know they're trained, all their tactics, their slogans, they're told what to do, because of the infiltration of some of these signal channels. So I would be surprised if they have this false sense of security, because again, what's going to happen? I get thrown in jail, but we'll bail you out. I don't think any of them are, again, I think the people that orchestrate this love that the body count is rising, but I don't think the people engaged in this, I don't think they really know what's going on. And when it happens, that's when you hear the moment of clarity, like, what do you mean? Real bullets. Like, yeah, this is the real world, you dumb shit, and you're not part of it. You're part of some freak show fantasy that you're saving people. You don't even have any idea when you intervene in this. You don't even know who these people are going after. I mean, you could be literally defending a child rapist. You have no idea what these law enforcement agents are engaged in right now. You have no clue. When did this become normal? It's become normalized because the people who are creating this whole false, grassroots movement are normalizing it. And these people are just, again, they don't have anything else going on in their lives, and they're just useful idiots, and we got a cause, and we're self-righteous, and that's what you have. This has now happened twice, and I don't think it's going to slow down unless something changes. So I hope Kunstler's right, and I hope something big happens. I think you've got to arrest something like the mayor. These people who have been sort of egging this on, I think you need a big move in order to kind of like set the stage for something more, because I don't know if the Insurrection Act is the right move either, optically, but something has to happen because it can't continue like this.
Yeah, well, like I said, optics are, what the hell? I can't even, what do I even think about it anymore? Hey, I think that Jane Barlow is going to be coming on for the last 15 minutes of tonight's show, and I want to take her into overtime, because I wanted to ask her, and I'm trying to get, she knows Dr. Brian Ardis very well, and she introduced me to Dr. Ardis, and I want to bring him on the show, but obviously I'm not going to bring him on when we have to go on YouTube or places like that. So right. I'm thinking about after hours or a special on other platforms, alternative platforms, because I want to talk to him about things like not only bee venom, but snake venom, because he had that whole idea about, during COVID. I want to follow up on that. And also nicotine. Now, Jane has I don't know how much I can say, but she has opened up my eyes to nicotine in big ways. I know you have done a lot of work on nicotine, and I'd like to just start broaching the subject. And I'm not talking about sucking down a pack of Marlboro Reds. But so
Right.
there's that, but also I wanted to bring up LDM 100 with her tonight, just because I think that because I've been using it with Aurora and myself for so much, for prophylactic and also for being sick and cutting this thing in half whenever the hell you feel something coming on. So I want to talk about those things because we're still in the middle of cold and flu season. Everybody's coming down with something, it seems, and just wanted to have some like medicine cabinet options out there. But I don't know. Have you have a when did you start looking into nicotine, for example?
I mean, it's been like intermittent, and then I wrote an article about I was looking for research on nicotine and carnitine together, and I couldn't find any published literature on it, so I decided to write my own, pulling individual papers, and basically using it as sort of like a cognitive and a sort of performance enhancement substance, like almost like a pre-workout. And, so I haven't dove super deep into it, but I've definitely started to experiment with it for sure, like as a pre-workout, and I'm actually combining it with carnitine. So, the idea is that nicotine sort of increases epinephrine, norepinephrine, and helps liberate fatty acids for energy utilization, and carnitine helps bring long-chain fatty acids into the mitochondria to be used for energy. So you got one molecule that's liberating the fats for usage, and you've got the other molecule that's helping make that usage very efficient. I found no published literature on it, but I've been actually playing around with it for like 6 to 8 months, and I've been having a blast, and it's been like skyrocketing my workout. So I don't know. Maybe I should create a hybrid product of nicotine and carnitine together, because I haven't seen anything else out there. But that's been my entrance into the world. So I'm like super excited to hear what Jane has to say about it.
Jane, you here?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Gotcha.
you. Oh, and of course you bring the sunshine with you. Jeez. Everything just lit up over here as well. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. It's nice to see both you guys. How are you?
Yeah, you too, Jane.
Been good. And you know what?
Thank you.
Because this is the first time you've called in to hang out with us since the Jamboree. So I wanted to thank you again on behalf of Jay and myself for not only your presence there, but the amount of product and the amount of what you gave away to everybody that we were able to put in all of those, not only the VIP bags, but to make available to people the night of the main event. And then of course, just for me to be able to kind of like recharge my own supplies there too. Just so incredibly generous. You're such a great friend, and you always make yourself available to people who are interested in expanding their knowledge on what the garden in the backyard can do to provide alternatives for what we otherwise are, swallowing all types of chemical additives when we go to CVS and Walgreens to grab one, allergy relief here and fever relief over there and pain relief over here. It's been a real learning experience, and just thank you for putting yourself out there for us like that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've been listening to the show, and I'm like, oh my God, how are they going to segue into herbs, or into me? I'm like, okay. I've watched the whole show, and I'm like, okay, how is this going to segue?
Okay, here's how we're going to segue. You want to hear it?
Pretty standard.
No. Here's the segue right here. There's a futurism.com article that I was going to throw in tonight in some way that I just want to put out, because I know, Jane, you also have done quite a bit of writing on sacred plants and mushrooms and cannabis and everything else like that. I want to know what you guys think about this. It's not psilocybin in particular, but there's a strange mushroom that makes you see it, very specific, tiny people chilling on every surface. Now listen, magic mushrooms, an informal group of fungi that contains the naturally occurring psychedelic substance psilocybin are known for inducing powerful hallucinations. They can induce feelings of euphoria, a sense of belonging in the world, and distort reality by messing with the brain's visual cortex, turning the world into a trippy, shimmering pocket dimension full of pulsating geometric patterns. Now we're hearing about a lesser known species known for its umami forward flavor in China, which can induce far more specific hallucinations when not prepared correctly by a chef. That is, as the BBC reports, the mushroom is Lan Maowa asiatica. It can cause you to see countless tiny people everywhere you look. Doctors in the Yunnan province of China are treating hundreds of cases a year of people having visions of small, pint-sized elf-like figures crawling around and climbing up walls.
Oh no!
Any thoughts, both of you guys? Jane, how about you? Start with you.
Yeah, like my first thought is I think that there's a whole magical, mystical world that's in a different dimension that lives in this dimension that people are probably tapping into when they take this. I mean, that's kind of my first thought, because I've had my fair share of psychedelic journeys, and psilocybin in particular. And I think you see things that are there that you can't see unless you're in that space. So that's my first thought. I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
I'm with Jane. I've never tried any of that stuff, but my gut says I'm with Jane.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to concur. I mean, I can't imagine any other scenario. Did you say that was the Hunan province in China?
Yunnan, Yunnan.
Isn't that where isn't that also where the Wuhan Institute of Virology is? I thought that's where it was.
It could be.
I'm just a little concerned. That's all.
This may be, it could be all EMF. I don't know. Look, at a mushroom hot pot restaurant there, the server set a timer for 15 minutes and warned us, don't eat it until the timer goes off or you might see little people.
Whoa.
So this is what I'm talking about. The hallucinations can last for 12 to 24 hours. Jane,
long time.
There, and I guess Jay too, when it comes to this stuff, it's like 15 minutes. Don't eat it until the timer goes off. Like there's a 15-minute threshold between just having a nice, scrumptious, hot and sour soup and Gulliver's Travels. I mean, that's incredible. Like, when you talk about, because you have some of that stuff in your field guide, Jane, is it something that is regularly occurring that you have to prepare these things for a certain amount of time, or else either risk it being too strong or actually not effective at all?
1,000%. In fact, the constituents of plants and mushrooms and different things like that will change depending on whether it's dried and oxidized. Like I know you wanted to talk about lomatium a little bit, and that's a perfect example. So lomatium is the part of the plant you use as the root, and the way my dad taught us to prepare it was to cut it up and let it dry and oxidize before you put it into tincture or capsule, whatever you're going to do with it. Because once it gets oxidized, it literally changes the medicinal properties. So if you do a fresh root extract, so you say you take the root, you chop it up immediately and put it into, say, an alcohol base to make a tincture, for example, it doesn't cause the one-time rash that you and I have talked about extensively, right? So yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. If it's like this mushroom needs to probably stay in the heat, maybe some of the moisture needs to cook out, and then some of the properties that make it give you that hallucinogenic stuff, it dissipates out with the heat and the temperature and all that. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Jay,
a lot of plants are like that.
Jay, and I've told you a lot about it, Jay. I got in touch with Jane I think it was last August. Aurora, maybe it was July, because we were going to go out with all of her little cousins to Playland and stuff like that, and we were at the studio. We were painting the music room. We were doing a lot of preparation for September, even back in June and July and all that stuff. And after that day of painting, Aurora said that her throat felt a little raw, And of course, when we got back home, I looked into the back of her mouth and I saw those white pockets of whatever, those little white specks and pockets of whatever, just like on her, in the back of her throat near her tonsils and stuff. And I'm saying, oh no, is this going to be strep? What the hell is it? It was very fresh. I got in touch with Jane. I said, I'm not going to urgent care. I'm not doing any of that stuff. They're going to give her amoxicillin. They're going to, swab her mouth. It's going to come back positive for strep, and it's going to be amoxicillin for 5 days. And I just don't want her to go through that. So I got in touch with Jane, and she said the LDM 100. And I followed it. It's Lomatium dissectum. And I'll tell you, man, since then, we have been able to use it to nip things in the bud. She never even got a fever. The next day she was fine. It all kind of just started really going away. It was cut down in half. I've used it for me. What have you looked into this, Jay? The Lomatium dissectum? Because I sent it to you. I said, you got to tell me what your research has found.
Man, it's so cool. I just like thinking, this is the beauty of working with other professionals, because I had a really great grad school education, but I only had 1 semester of botanical medicine. And it was honestly, it was harder than any biochemistry class. It was harder than anything that I studied, because it just it didn't come naturally to me. Even just like learning the actual name of the plant rather than like what it's colloquially known as, those kinds of things. And, learning the active properties. And as Jane was saying, like, depending on the extraction method and down to the temperature can sometimes change the constituents in the final product. And so I was just amazed at people that can do this and keep it all straight in their mind. So that was the first thing. So I thought that was fantastic. And I had never heard of this before, but just looking it up and looking through some of the research, finding like antiviral, antibacterial, acids like tectronic acid in this actually have the ability to disrupt bacterial replication. It's got, I found a paper that was talking about the root extract being able to scavenge free radicals, protecting from oxidative stress. It reduces something called CXCL10, which is a chemokine that's linked to inflammation, influenza A infections, things like that. So just like a variety of, it's almost like it was almost like a Swiss Army knife of infection control. So it was just really fun to look up. Yeah, it was really fun to look up the individual mechanisms of action. So I would love to hear Jane talk more about it, but I found quite a few papers on it, and it's hard to find something that actually has both antiviral and antibacterial properties, and this one actually does.
Yeah, my dad, I think I've shared this before, but it's worth repeating again. So my dad was a medicinal botanist, and he started studying it when I was a kid, and he brought out some of these formulas when I was about 14. With Lomatium. So the LDM 100 was born literally 50 years ago, because I'm now 64. So I now have like 50 years of experience as a teenager, as a young mother. And, I have now grandkids that are 14 and 12 who have never had prescription antibiotics, who are also thankfully unvaccinated completely. But we all turn to herbal medicine. But Lomatium is one of those things that it can scare people away because of the potential for the one-time rash. But I have come to believe that what's happening is your body finally has a tool to eradicate what I believe is a viral load, because 95% of the population of the world has some type of Epstein-Barr, whether it's dormant or active or whatever. And this includes things like shingles and herpes and all of the things that live under the Epstein-Barr family. So what I've seen happen over the years is when someone, their body finally gets this tool to eradicate something that you might not even realize. Because I've had people say, oh, I got the flu and my neighbor said, here, try this Lomatium, it'll help you. And they're perfectly healthy, because sometimes you have these low grade energy things. You feel healthy, but you don't really know what it feels like to be vibrantly well.
Yes.
So, right?
Yes.
So someone will take this Lomatium, and then the rash shows up at about a week. So it's really classic. And we know that's not an allergic reaction, because if it were an allergic reaction, you'd get it when you first took it. But the rash shows up between days 5 and 7. And it's a deep, from inside, pretty gnarly rash for some people. But what's interesting is when when people learn about this plant, and we spend so much time educating, because it's the worst thing to get a phone call from an emergency room with people that are presenting with this lomacium rash, and our numbers on the bottle, I can't even tell you how many times. But I believe that what's happening is the body has a tool to eradicate a viral load. I believe it's mostly viral. So it does cover bacteria. I've had my children, my grandchildren, multiple friends clear up strep almost overnight. And I know that's, I'm not making medical claims. I'm not a doctor. This is just my own experience. So.
Oh, well,
yeah.
there's no, I'll just say there was no rash over here. And
yeah, most people don't get it.
No, I've seen that, but I've seen the stuff on the side of the bottle. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's crazy how many people are getting sick around us. The LDM, and it was part of everything that I threw at it over the course of Christmas. I mean, Jay would even tell you on the 23rd when we were doing the George Washington's death episode, it was LDM on the hour. Every hour. Oh,
on
yeah.
air, right?
Yeah. No, I gave it to Matt too. I gave it to Matt too. He forgot to take his bottle. I wanted him to grab it, but there's that. Okay, so now listen. I have your website, both of your websites in the description of the episode. But before I don't know how to bring this up because I want to bring this into the flip side a little bit and talk a little bit more candidly about the nicotine. But I guess there's ways to do it. Perhaps what I've heard is that just like cannabis, there is there are nicotine-like receptors or receptors in our body where nicotine on a molecular level locks in, just like we have an endocannabinoid system. Is that all true? That's the claim I have heard from people who do a lot of research into nicotine as a supplement and not just, where everybody's mind goes first, and that is an American Eagle or American Spirit cigarette or something like that. I mean.
Yeah, you're 1,000% correct. Yeah, Jay, you could probably talk about the nicotine receptors.
Yeah, nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the central nervous system and peripheral tissue, but that triggers that cascade dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and that helps mobilize fat. And that was kind of why, what I was talking about before is that there have been a few papers out there looking at nicotine as a potent sort of exercise enhancer, performance enhancer, because fat is a fantastic fuel source. And so that's kind of what drew me to it, because I was just interested in it. And then, digging into it. And it's always amazing when you realize that the body has receptors for all of these surprise, natural things. And then you have to start to wonder, well, I wonder where this actually fits in with our biology. And then I think, Jane, that's probably where someone like you comes in, because you figure out how to leverage the powers of the plant to use it for its medicinal properties. But I did find one interesting thing. I don't know if you knew this, Jane, when I was digging into it before, that you probably didn't know this, but it's the where is it? Nicotine, a naturally occurring alkaloid primarily found in the plants of nightshade families, where it served as a defense mechanism against herbivores and insects. So in the plant kingdom, it's a defense mechanism, which, again, not surprising, but we're able to leverage that, and somehow humans have that receptor and are able to use it, obviously, for different purposes. But again, that's where someone like Jane would be able to leverage the plant's medicinal properties.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the things that are put on this earth to help humans, tobacco the history of it is so deep and so rich. And this is, to me, one of the biggest lies that we've been told. As I've dug deeper into it. In fact, it's fairly new on my radar, only because I published my book in 2023, self-published it, The Be Your Own Shaman. And then it got picked up by Skyhorse and it was republished in 2024. But I added an extra chapter to the Skyhorse publishing. And the chapter I added was Sacred Plants and Psychedelics. And tobacco kept tapping on me. Like, I find sometimes plants will kind of talk to me. I get these massive impressions. And as I was gathering this chapter, tobacco kept saying, I want to be a part of this. And I'm like, I've never smoked a cigarette. I have always believed that nicotine is addictive and not good for you. But it wouldn't leave me alone. So I was like, okay. So I basically put it in the book, and then I started researching. And April will be 2 years that it came out. So I have been deep diving into all of the amazing things that's been kept from us about nicotine. And anyone who's looking at nicotine knows that it's naturally occurring, like you said, in nightshades, like potatoes and eggplants and potatoes. And now, granted, it's in much smaller quantities.
Right.
And tobacco has higher quantities. And then I found this really amazing species of tobacco that's called Nicotiana rustica. And this species is I believe this is the master plant, and this is a big statement, of all master plants. And I say that because if you were to go do a plant medicine journey, ayahuasca, with a shaman, the shaman will roll up some of this Nicotiana rustica, also known as mapacho, roll it up into something to smoke. And as they serve the people the ayahuasca, they take a puff and they blow it over the ayahuasca before they serve it. It's very ritualistic, but it actually heightens it. So what I've been doing is I've been playing around with, because I know how to do this for myself and my family, I've been making my own tincture out of that species of tobacco plant. And it's just something I'm making for my own personal use. But what I've been really interested in is all of the benefits that it does for your neurological system. And for my belief, people with like Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, dementia, and all the things, like just in my own personal experience this last year and a half, pretty solid with people that I know, it blows my mind. But the thing that we need to remember is this is naturally occurring nicotine because we do have these nicotine receptors. And you look at all the things that are popular, the pouches and the patches and the vapes and the gum, all of that is synthetic nicotine. So I'm not saying it's bad for you and it's kind of the only option right now. I tried to get my manufacturer that makes all my other tinctures out of plants, just like I'm making my own, and no one would touch it with a 10-foot pole. And then they say, well, let me send you to somewhere where you can maybe someone else, there's places that will make you a tincture. And that was true, but they wouldn't make it out of the plant. They would only make it with synthetic nicotine. So I was just like, okay.
Oh, I gotta say, and again, you just never know when we're crossing a line here. That's why I'm trying to save all my most provocative questions for another time in another setting. But
okay, did I say too much?
No, not at all. Like I said, I don't know where the line is. That's why I'm just like
Frank is about to say too much.
Well, yeah, it's usually me. But I'm just gonna say, you guys remember, and it's just what was being put out there. Of course, as soon as it was put out there, there's people that were saying, "Nay, that is just a coincidence," all that other stuff. But it was maybe going into the third quarter of 2020. We are, deep in the weeds as far as lockdown year goes. I know 2021 was just as bad as 2020 because now we're dealing with we're dealing with a new administration and we're dealing with new types of pressures and all that stuff. But around the end, I guess it was summer to late summer is when it started getting around that smokers, both tobacco and cannabis, they were actually showing a lot stronger signs of resistance to infection. And the working theory was there that any kind of a virus, whether it was a novel virus or whether it was just the flu that was repackaged and thrown out there, because of course the flu disappeared and whatever the hell, if you had a cough that year, you had COVID. So who the hell knows? But the whole point there was that any kind of a viral infection, that these spike proteins that latch into your system and start replicating, that they usually go into these open receptors like the endocannabinoid receptors, and they also fit into the nicotine receptors as well, and that the smokers who were getting their fair share of both the cannabis and the tobacco, the nicotine, they were all plugged up, and there was less places for these things to latch onto, and that was the reason why, at least as it was earlier reported, and of course immediately poo-pooed, smokers seemed to be a little bit more resistant to infection. That I'm just throwing it out there. You can just wink and nod at me, you guys. I don't know what you think, but I don't know. Memories? Memories, anyone? Okay, Jane,
Yeah.
but Jay, how about you, Jay?
No, absolutely. I very much remember that, and I remember the push, actually the equal and opposite reaction of the Anthony Fauci's of the world, saying things like, now is actually a fantastic time to really think about not smoking. Like, we should really up the not smoking campaign, which was interesting because, like, on one hand, yeah, I mean, you should not smoke cigarettes because there's 1,000 and one other ingredients, that are going to do you harm. But it's interesting that they would choose that moment in time to really want to double down on not smoking. And so, yeah, the other thing that was hard about this time period is that nobody was researching the things that we actually needed to research. And so it was hard to find really good data on this. So you were sort of left to, like, plug in the gaps yourself and to hypothesize and to just do things from a theoretical basis, which I'm perfectly happy to do. I experiment on myself all the time because a lot of things I want to try, again, they're not in the published literature because people don't want to research that kind of stuff. The same pitfalls that Jane was falling into, just trying to get, a product, out there in the market. People, they don't want to step on landmines, whether that's just, I don't know. I always say self-preservation is one of the ugliest human qualities, but, they just want to protect themselves. And so it was really hard for me back then. I remember looking at all kinds of things. It was so hard, man, to find, like, research on hydroxychloroquine or all that stuff. But everything I found, I put out there and did my best, but couldn't find a lot of stuff on nicotine. But it does make perfect sense. And I definitely remember hearing that from actually quite a few people.
Well, let me also just say before Jane throws in there too, and a couple of people have very, rightly put it into the chat room, that smoking does compromise your lung capacity and whatever. And it's not the delivery. We can debate the delivery, the way that these substances that we're talking about are delivered. The best way to get the most out of the cannabis plant, and we're not even talking about the psychoactive properties of cannabis, is not smoking. So maybe sometimes you want to, if you want, you can vaporize dry herb to be able to get more of a respiratory effect or something like that. Perhaps you wanted to be able to treat something you got going on that way. Some people do that. But that's not what we're talking about here, especially with the nicotine. I don't think that Jay or Jane would say that, hey, if you want to start experimenting with nicotine, smoke a Marlboro Red before you go to the gym. I don't think.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's not what I'm saying.
For that.
It's just
that'll be a first on this show.
But it is a delivery. It is a mode of delivery, which is why, to some kind of a roundabout way, it was being noticed.
Right. This is a classic example in science of sometimes how we learn things, through the most unlikely mechanisms, right? And then it's your job as a scientist to sort of, like, pick apart the things to understand what's actually going on and then figure out a way to leverage that for a positive. And this is the perfect example of that. I would never advocate for smoking ever. But now that we've kind of understood this, because of that, we can say, okay, now how can we achieve this effect? Because it seems to be nicotine that's doing the job. How can we achieve this effect without all the downsides? That's sort of the essence of moving the field forward.
Eat a whole lot of potatoes.
There you go.
Okay. So before we go to the flip side, though, can I just circle back 1 second to what Jane was saying before about the rash, right? Jane, did you, I'm sure you've considered this, but when you said that, I thought instantly, timing and everything, that sounds like a classic Herxheimer reaction. Where the body, right? Like, okay. So I just wanted to see, I kind of figured that was what was going on, but I wanted to just throw that out there.
Or like a healing crisis. Sometimes you get a little bit worse before you get better, classic Herxheimer. But then what I've discovered over the years is that if you support and do a liver detox with special herbs like dandelion root and milk thistle, things like that, for most people, we're able to prevent the rash. About 10% will get it, but if we put them through this protocol where their liver gets a lot of nourishment, support, detox, because a lot of people have a very compromised liver, just because of medications or lifestyle or whatever. Then if we do that, And this was just a lot of collaboration with a lot of doctors. The first probably 10 or 15 years I was going, because I've been going, my dad passed away 28 years ago. I've been going on my own for about 24. And so for the first 10 or 15 years, I did a lot of collaboration with a lot of my main customers were doctors. And they would see patients and they would get all these classic things. But yes, 100% Herxheimer healing crisis. It only happens once, and it's actually a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, just say that's classic. And you can't, if you're ever going to detox anybody from anything, you have to make sure all your elimination pathways are open. So, you know,
100%.
having the liver be at full function is critical. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, before we jump over to the flip side, I wanted to put, hold on. I have there's a couple of people here in the Rumble chat that I want to heap some love on to. Browntail, or one of our wonderful pilot friends out there, says, some tooth fairy money. Cheers, Browntail. You are too good to the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the years of being a friend. Tommy Jekyll says, Frank, have you and or Jay ever smoked cigarettes? Stopping for me was hell. No. Never. No, I never did. There was actually one time I did smoke a cigarette at a club, just so that I puffed it like a cigar. You couldn't leave it was a really hot, balmy night, and the club was not very well ventilated, and we were all hanging out and shit. And someone was like, yo, you want to go outside and get some air? But there was no re-entry. The only way you can go outside and get some air is if you were a smoker, and they had a smoker section. I said, give me a cigarette. I'm just going to puff this thing. And so I sat there, and no, I didn't know. So no, the one time I had it, I never inhaled. The old Bill Clinton line. I didn't do it. Yeah. What about you, Jay?
No, I think I tried a cigarette once. I had a cousin who smoked. I tried a cigarette once just because I wanted to see what it was like. And why would anybody take the time to get used to this? So like literally one cigarette my entire life. So that was that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I inhaled. I probably did it wrong.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It's very hard to get it right.
Amateur.
Haywood says tobacco doesn't make you sick. That's all I'll say. It's the chemicals and preservatives in the tobacco companies spray on the tobacco that does. I guess you can say that about most things people are consuming in the country at this point. Dark Heart Hemi says they started saying how low dose aspirin was bad for you immediately after someone noticed a lower rate of C19 infections. Oh, there's a lot of things. I mean, there was a lot of things. You remember when the WHO, like the third day in, came out and said, don't worry, if you're not symptomatic, everything is fine. And then the next day they were forced to go out there and say, no, you just screwed up the next 6 months if you don't go out there and reverse. I mean, that was the WHO.
We're going to have asymptomatic spread.
I know. It's Stove Thank you so much for the tip. And I will get to all the gold pills on the flip side. Now, before we go there, Jane, let's just start with you. Give some plugs for your work. I put Barlow, your wonderful website, barlowherbal.com, in the description of the episode. I hope people get some of the LDM and whatever the hell else you got going on over there into their medicine chests, that they go and call you. I mean, I hit you up, I feel like every couple of weeks saying, hey, you know what? What should I stock up on for this specific thing if it ever happens again? Or, the Aurora's teething and what, I just love picking your brain now. It's fantastic. But, is the
last
website?
The last time you reached out, Frank, you actually called me Dr. Jane, and I had to just go, I just thought you were so cute.
I said, hey, Dr. Jane, I need some help. So is the website the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. In fact, I would say go to barlowherbal.com. And if you go to the search engine and just put in catalog, you can download a copy of our catalog, and we'll send you a hard copy with your first order. But the first thing to do is just go in and get familiar, because the things that we do, you won't find them on a health food store shelf, because there's an education curve that they require. And we have some really hardcore protocols for gnarly issues that come at us as humans. But the reason we've been around for so long is because they work. And when the human body gets the right tools, it knows how to heal. It's really simple.
Well, that's what. Are you going to stick with us for a couple of minutes to go into the flip side?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. You just hang out there. And Jay, healthreclamationproject.com. I hope that people are still, going and inquiring with you. Let everybody know where they can find you and how they get in touch with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best place if you want to work with myself or Jen. And, we're like, we're that front end, where you want to set the foundations for everything and to make sure that, again, as Jane said, in this world, it's just a disaster waiting to happen and seemingly from every direction, the principles of living well, sleep and nutrition and daily movement and all that kind of stuff. That's really what we teach. And we're doing it in written format. We're doing it now in video format. We're opening up our one-on-one consultations. So we're really, kind of revamping people's lifestyles. And if you use, I think, yes, for the rest of January, so for a couple more days, if you use the code JAN, JAN 26, you'll get a discount. Become a member. You never have to. We're not a phone company. You don't have to sign any contracts or anything. Just come on board, learn. You get free Q&As every week, and you can ask questions. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff to learn. So it's like the owner's manual to the human body. Just go to the healthreclamationproject.com and we'll take care of you.
Both links are in the description of the episode. And again, that's it. We're going to go to the flip side now and kind of talk until the bottom of the hour. And I thank you all so much. This was, Jay, I got to say, this was a very, very promising night. I know that it's really cold out there, but that wouldn't have stopped us. You couldn't get to the studio. And, but I still think that we were able to do everything that we wanted to do, at least technically. Everything. Yeah, no. Well, I screwed up the rest, but now we have something to do on Tuesday.
No, it's going to be fun. And now I know if I can control the screen, if we have some, if I have something I want to put up on screen, we can do it this way. I'm going to take over the show. It's going to be great.
Oh, that'll be wonderful. That will be wonderful. Okay, guys, me, Jay, and Jane are going over to the flip side. I'm going to put the link into the description. I'm sorry, I will put it into the pinned comments afterwards. But I'm going to drop it into the chat room. So follow us over because the fun is, not over yet, and would really love to have you hang out. We'll do a little Q&A and shoot the shit a little bit. So we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow night, 7:00. I'm pretty sure that Chrissy Mayer is going to be in the studio. So God help us all. You know how those nights go. All right, here we have it.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. Thank you to Stowstube and Jay Brits and Revolution and Genie Yankee Fan and Shotzi, to our wonderful friend Browntail and Darkheart Hemi and Hey Would You Blow Me Too. And then over there at the top of it all is Awakened Boomer and Tommy Jekyll. You guys have been wonderful. We're going to get to your gold pills in just a moment. So head over to the flip side. The link is now in the chat rooms, so go and click on over, baby.
Okay, Chief, take him away. I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.